everyone, it's the Redmen Originals Podcast. We are here. I'm laughing for reasons not entirely linked to Liverpool Football Club. Thank you for that. It's a sight I never thought I'd ever see, and no one behind the camera ever will get to. Hi everyone. Liverpool drew their opening game of the season against Chelsea. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking transfers and all the fallout from everything that happened over the weekend, of course, because it's been a busy old few days and not exactly how we all thought it would be when we woke up on Friday morning. I am Paul Machin, Steve Hall, Chloe Bloxham and Dan Clubb are here with me for this one. We'll come on to the Caicedo stuff because it's obviously the biggest thing. It's almost bigger than what actually happened in the footy ultimately, but we'll talk more about that in part two. Let's focus on the game itself because he absolutely wasn't involved in the game. We know that for certain, and he had a pretty good chance. You know, he could have been playing for literally either of the football teams. Played for neither. Chelsea won, Liverpool won. We were having this chat last night, and we're having a chat today. It's like the third or fourth season on the bounce where we're hoping that a game against Chelsea is going to tell us exactly where we are. It might have done, but it certainly didn't give us the, we wanted 3 points to say, oh, Chelsea, we're definitely miles better than Chelsea, and vice versa.
Yeah, it was, I think it just explained, it was a typical kind of demonstration of where Liverpool are at. I think we've got some really, really positive things that we know that we're really, really good at, and then there's some obvious flaws in the team and in the system in particular that Chelsea managed to exploit. So I don't think we learned anything particularly that we didn't know. We know Liverpool have got really good technical players now. We've got really good attacking players. There's a question about the system and the vulnerabilities and the suitability of certain players in it. And we all know Liverpool need to buy a defensive midfielder. So I actually don't think we learned that much. What I thought was that I think Chelsea are going to be a little bit better than I maybe thought they would be. I think and obviously they're going to spend a lot more money and things like that. But I don't think there's nothing new. I didn't come out of that game thinking like some epiphany of that's clear. We know the goalie's boss. We know we've got electric attackers. We know there's a bit of a problem in midfield, and we think we might have a problem on the left-hand side of our defence. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I think we knew all that anyway, and that's how it kind of played out.
It was two teams that aren't finished yet, Chloe, going head to head, and I guess the hope was, for us, we were looking at how bad Chelsea were, and you're hoping, oh God, are they going to continue to be a mess? Chelsea don't seem to stay a mess for long, and we'll come on to why they might be one in the long term in part two. But they've got a good manager there, they've got good players. They're at home, they got the bit between the teeth, but there were weaknesses to exploit there, and we did, and that was when we played good stuff, and then the flip was true as well.
Yeah, for the first 30 we could have been 3-0 up, and we probably should have put the game to bed within those first 30 minutes. The final ball wasn't there, the decision making in the final third wasn't there all the time, and as for Chelsea, the downside for me, in the way I'm a little bit disappointed with it, is the fact that Chelsea have had so little time to work on that system, and yet once they found out Liverpool's system and how to beat the press, they simply played us off the park. They just did. In terms of possession, in terms of retaining the ball, Reece James had a field day. Enzo Fernandez ends up being man of the match, rightfully so. He bossed the midfield. We were chasing in 2s and 3s around players who were literally just tearing us inside out once we'd pressed them. There was one ball through the line, and that is what I was disappointed at. Was for 30 minutes I thought we looked brilliant, and I thought, wow, this is the system. We've been working on it, and we've had longer to work on our system than Chelsea and Pochettino have to work on theirs, and yet they dominated the game for a longer period of time than Liverpool did, and there was no adaptation from Liverpool. After those 30 minutes, it was the same game for the next 60. It was Liverpool not knowing how to adapt and get a grip of the game and get a foothold again.
Yeah, we did. We just struggled to get the ball, didn't we, Dan? Ultimately, we were counter-pressing high, and that was causing Chelsea problems. Our counter-attack properly never clicked, and then we never also, I think there's 3 ways of playing it. There's a high press, there's counter-attack, and there's possession-based football, and Liverpool at their best are brilliant at all of those. We were good at the counter-press until I think the legs fell off us in going so hard on that, and then none of the others ever quite clicked into the gear that we needed to cause them more problems.
They didn't, no, and I think it was interesting how after the game Trent came out and said we want to get back to our philosophy, which is that counter-pressing stuff, and we were brilliant at it for a while, and it kind of sort of reminded me of what we used to do to teams in the early days of Jurgen Klopp, whereby we'd come out all guns blazing and just blow them away in half an hour, and it looked like that's what we wanted wanted to do yesterday. We wanted to really get in the ascendancy and kind of kill the game off, and Chloe's right, we could have done. We had chances to do so. Salah hits the bar, maybe just prior to that, Gakpo should take the shot himself. We have the goal disallowed, and who knows how the game transpires if we do go 2, possibly 3 ahead. Stamford Bridge turns on them a little bit, new managers, stuff like that. So there were chances there for Liverpool to do so, but yeah, it's interesting, and it was disappointing how when we did sort of take a hit, obviously we conceded the goal, sloppy as it was, we do sort of hand over the initiative of the game then, and we never managed to grasp it back and get back, and that's what was most disappointing for me actually, because we didn't have another way of skinning that particular cat. Like, it was like, we go all in, counter press. If that doesn't work, what do we do next? And plan B wasn't there, and that was what we were guilty of so many times last season, whereby when we lost control of the game, our game management wasn't there to grab it again, and that was the case yesterday. That's why I'm a little bit... I'm not negative, because I never am, but I am a little bit disappointed because all the hallmarks of the issues last year were still on show, and I thought we might have addressed that.
I thought as well, Dan, is that, and I agree with Chloe, Liverpool, the way the tactically way it first set up, it was perfect for us.
Yeah.
Because their game plan was to give it to Conor Gallagher and play through him, and Liverpool were all over him and identified it. And then Chelsea kind of switched. They stopped doing that. Fernandes looked like he dropped it a little bit deeper, or they started, rather than trying to play into the middle, they'd give it to the wide centre-backs, and then his job was to get it into Sterling or James.
They went over the press.
Either over or around the side of it. And I know, like Andy Robertson, for example, and I don't think he had a great game, but I also think the system sold him down the river a little bit. Reece James and Raheem Sterling, think what you want about Sterling, probably on the downside now of his career, but he's still a good player. Reece James is still probably one of the best right wing backs in the world. I don't know about him as a right back, but I think as a right wing back he's excellent. And our system allowed Chelsea to pass around the side of us and get there time and time again. And it was almost like we were winning the initial battle, they changed, and then what that needs is for you then to adapt and switch, and we never really did that, whether it was personnel or shape or anything. We saw a little bit maybe of Luis Diaz trying to get back and help Robertson a bit more, but it felt like we had the upper hand tactically. And you're right, Chloe, when you've got that, you probably need to go bang bang and then if they do change, you're not still chasing the game. So that's kind of like, it feels like...
It'll feel familiar to Liverpool on the pitch, though, because, again, we had that at times last season where it's like, it feels like it's all on the attack to win games of football for us, and look, it should be like that. It's always been like that to some extent, but the sucker punching later on, I think the tactical thing's interesting, because I don't think they're going to play 3 at the back this season. I think he'll play 4-2-3-1, but given the problems they had, and they've not quite brought the players in yet, he's gone back to something that he knows that the vast majority of that team know how to play, and he's still built for it. Again, Reece James is a right wing back. Chilwell can do a good job at left wing back as well. So they had weirdly had more in their locker to stick to, as Liverpool are trying to do something new, are sticking with their guns, maybe modifying it slightly dependent upon personnel. Like, I think Trent played far more as a right back than he played as an inverted full back.
But that's because we have the ball.
Yeah, exactly. But again, you could have gone gung-ho and gone, no, we'll stick to our guns here and we'll go more on it. But this is the point. Liverpool's idea was get more pressures in the team and don't get Trent to overcommit out of right back. So they end up with, effectively, I know they're playing wing backs, but it was written out as like a 3-4-3. It's not. It's 5 at the back when it needs to be 5 at the back, plus 2 DMs in front of it. They gave themselves that solid base at home, and Liverpool's job was to try and be more on it and cause them more problems. And you're right, once they figured out what we were doing, it felt like, I don't know, and is that leaders on the pitch? Is that like a lack of strength in midfield to wrest the game back? Because Gakpo couldn't do that once the game wore on. His influence totally evaporated out of the footy match. Szoboszlai was at least commendable for being able to be on the pitch without losing his energy. McAllister was firefighting for as a DM. We didn't seem to have that gear in us to go, okay, yeah, let's completely shift what we do, which is frustrating, but
it's fine margins though in a podcast, like I say, because I think at 90 minutes the point's a better point for Liverpool than Chelsea, because I think Chelsea, and for the majority of that game, were probably better, but it wasn't like for ages, especially when I thought Alisson was making save after save. It became that a little bit later where he did have to make some really important saves, but it felt like quite even. They had a lot of the ball, but like I just about thought our centre-halves, and Trent in particular, were dealing with it quite well. Robertson was having a tough time, but his mates were just about backing him up. It's just that, half a yard offside from being 2-0 up on cruise, like in real, cruise control, like, real foothold in the game. Then they score what's a bit of a fluky goal, a bit of a nothing goal, really. That's whatever. Then you get a bit of your luck, and then there could have been a red card. Sorry, there could have been a handball. I think there's definitely a handball.
Let's do the handball thing actually, if you don't mind. Sorry, Steve, because Chloe, it's Anthony Taylor. We know he's terrible. Apparently Chelsea fans don't like him either, but on the balance of that, I think they've come off with a better refereeing performance than we certainly did. I was prepared to concede the handball thing because you can make a case his arms are quite close into his body. It literally hits his hand, and his hand is in a bit of a mad position. And then I saw the Lewis Dunk one for Brighton, where he's sliding in, and it hits his elbow on the underside of his body as he's sliding and got it given. And the problem is that we want consistency, and the problem is it's different people refereeing, so you're going to get inconsistency. But that is a huge sense of frustration. That by comparison to the dunk one for me, that's an absolute clear-cut handball.
Yeah, but the dunk one's never a penalty anyway, so I'm going off based off what's in my mind. The first time I looked at it, I thought, his hands was close to his body. The balls came at him at a fast speed. He's expecting a player to header the ball on. He's not expecting it to come his way. But at the same time, the more I look at it, the more I think, why have you got your hands up like you're about to shield your face? If a ball hits you in the face, you don't shield it. And it's unnatural, I'll give that 100%. But the reason I didn't speak about it after the game was because his hands are close to his body, so I can understand why it's not being given. But at the same time, the more I look at it, the more I feel like he's just palmed the ball away so it doesn't hit him in the face. But ultimately, it's done. Forget about it, because otherwise it's going to do my absolute head in. And also, it would have been a smash and grab if we'd have came away with something from that perspective. For me, so yeah, it's one of them.
I think perspective's interesting as well, Dan. I was speaking to Rory Jennings this week about it, and they were saying the expectations of Chelsea are so low this season because of how bad they were last year. Then you could see it actually. I'd say on the balance of play, they were probably the better team. The stats, I know the possession stats are weighted heavily in their favour, but most of the people who do XG it come out about 1.28 apiece, so it was pretty close in that. But look at their players at the end of it. They're buzzing, they're bouncing, the managers in a playful mood and all this kind of stuff. And that's because I think that they see that as much more of a win than Liverpool. Our expectations are we've got to get back to being a title challenging side. Their expectations are they could do it being in Europe. That's I think that actually played into their hands a lot in terms of the attitude yesterday. Yeah,
absolutely it did. Yeah, and like you touched upon there, I think it will be seen as a positive for them to get that result, because in spite of what happened last season for us, and we were miles away from where we wanted to be, we're still very much seen as a contender. Like anybody of any sense would suggest that we will be up there and fighting again in the not too distant future. Obviously, we know as Liverpool fans being so close to it, we are actually quite a long way away from that. It's still possible, especially if we're getting the players that we want in this market, of course. But yeah, I don't think it was a great draw for us, because I think we're in a better place than they are now. We kind of touched on it in the build-up show. In terms of the surgery that needs doing, we felt like we were much further down the line, and they feel very much like a team in progress. But as it transpired, they are a bit better than what I give them credit for, to be fair. But yeah, I think you're right. I think in terms of expectations, our expectations remain, because of Jurgen Klopp, is a lot of this remain to be fighting for titles and competitive for trophies, and Chelsea's, as you rightly say, are just get somewhere near the top four again, because they were so far off it last season. Ours was seen as a blip, theirs was major problems. So I think that's why, in terms of the result yesterday, you're seeing Trent coming out saying he's disappointed and we want to be fighting for the title. The winning mentalities, the where the squads are at and the stages of their sort of progression are completely different places, and rightfully so. Yeah, it is. Let's talk about some of the good things then. Salah set up for Diaz goal, stays brilliant. He had a couple of heavy touches, Mo. I don't think he was quite on his game, but he was such a threat in that period. When Liverpool were on top, Salah was absolutely brilliant. And yeah, to pick that pass out when there's a year earlier on in the year and the end of last season, he maybe just tries to run Colwill into the ground, twist him inside that a bit more. But the opportunity presents itself, and that's one of the things you can see from pre-season. We're always going to have willing runners looking for that ball. You just got to pick them out, and he did it fantastically. Yeah,
it's interesting because, like I say, we saw Andy Robertson getting, he's a left back getting dragged over there, and he looked a bit uncomfortable against Reece James. Well, Colwell is a centre-back, and he looked out of his depth against Mo Salah at the time, you know what I mean? He's a good player, and he's one that Liverpool were reported willing to spend a decent fee if they could have got him out of Chelsea. And yet, when Mo Salah stands you up and he's got like 3 yards, there's a bit of space between you, and he's so quick with the ball, it's pick your poison. Because if you do dive in, there's every chance he just jumps past you. And then see you later. Ask Lisandro Martinez what that feels like. You see you later. All the best. But if you give him 2 yards or 3 yards, he's got the ability to pick that pass. It's a wonderful pass. It's a brilliant Liverpool goal from start to finish. Every part of it, from the little knockoff, I think it's Szoboszlai into McAllister, and then Liverpool are away, and it's a great ball, and it's a great everything about it's brilliant, and that's a huge positive for me because. Yeah, you're right in saying before about the counter pressing looked okay, but we didn't really counter attack well. Well, it's nice that we didn't have to score. We didn't have to counter attack. That was just a good goal. Yeah. We just played it around. Chelsea team that were pretty much set. They were where they needed to be. Liverpool just were able to knock it around them, get the ball to the best player, and it's really nice to see Diaz making that run. It's a great run. It's a Sadio Mane-esque goal run. It's. I was doing the final word this morning. Apologies to anyone who listened, but Sam Walker said. It reminds him of the goal that Mane scored, remember, against Watford in that 5-0. It was a very similar, it was a Salah ball through and then Mane's able to run onto it. That was a huge positive moment for us because that was Liverpool cutting through Chelsea. Like, with our technical player, McAllister's job is to pick that pass. Salah, touch of dreams, he kills it dead. Yeah. And as soon as he kills that dead, Colwell's in trouble. He got away with it before because Salah's touch just a few moments earlier, his second touch got away from him. It's a perfect goal, and it's hugely encouraging that, Salah's fucking brilliant. I mean, he gets a comment getting taken off. I don't blame him because he should do, but he is still, he's still Liverpool's best player, and he showed it again. That is like, I don't think there are that many wingers in the world who are goal scorers as well who can pick that pass. It's a very select amount because the angle, I think Sky done a really good job of showing the angle, like the lane that he had. It was a very, to get it through Colwell and round the back in front of the defenders. It's excellent. It really is. We saw plenty of encouragement. I want to come back onto the Salah substitution bit in a minute, but just to pick up on the tactical approach, Dan, I saw things in that game that only bolster my expectation that Liverpool are going to be a brilliant attacking team this season. And one of them was obviously Salah's creativity, the amount of times we actually worked the ball to Salah in actual reasonable shooting opportunities, which was great as well. But even Szoboszlai, who I don't think was exceptional. Thought he had a good solid game, but that run in the first half where he's picked it up on the right hand side, Jordan Henderson in that one recycles possession or tries one of those whipped balls to the back post, which had a success rate. I wouldn't like to say what the success rate was. Low.
Yeah. But what we saw from Szoboszlai, that I'm just going to go for it attitude, and not in like a blind, headless chicken, what are you doing? And I admit, when he started the run, it was a bit like, what are you doing here, mate? You don't run in from that situation. But he takes like 3 players out the game, and then a little miscommunication from him and Jota makes it takes it away from being a proper chance, I guess. But that was a really encouraging thing for me.
No, it was, and it just sort of speaks of how many attacking weapons we do have at our disposal now, and it makes it really difficult for opposition managers and, of course, opposition players and defenders and stuff to sort of know where to prioritise, because as good as we've been in recent years under Jurgen Klopp, and we have been absolutely exceptional, there have been times in games whereby you do kind of look at the front three, and you could even speak about the bench on this and look at the bench and go, I don't really know how we hurt a team off a bench. Like, Origi's had his moments, of course, and Minamino less so, but he did. But really, it was a case of, right, Firmino, Salah or Mane, you are going to score our goals. And more often than not, of course, he did. But there were games whereby they couldn't break a team down because you might double up on Salah and he might have a quiet game, very rare quiet game that he has. But now, when you add the attacking midfielders into the mix and what they offer, and then you've got different attackers on the bench like Darwin Núñez and people like that, it's just, even Cody Gakpo yesterday, you're right, he didn't have his greatest game as an 8. Certainly as the game wore on, he fell more and more out of it. But he's a goal scorer. He's a goal scorer playing as an attacking 8. Like, he could quite easily let fly from range and suddenly you're 2-0 up. Same for Szoboszlai. The run was something in itself, but a couple of moments whereby you could see he fancied a shot, and he actually has one that gets deflected over, and he might not have been the best option. But the fact he's willing to take it on is something in itself, because we haven't had enough of that in recent years. Like, Ox had his spell, didn't he, before his injuries, whereby he offered something different. Now we've got Szoboszlai, we've got McAllister, we've got Harvey Elliott as well, who comes on. Curtis Jones will have a crack from range. So it's just nice to have these positive options. But just want to very quickly touch on what Steve said about Diaz, because it's something I referenced in my match reaction. It was boss to see him score that goal. because it was Sadio Mane-esque, exactly what I said as well, because him arriving at the back post, he scored goals for Liverpool. We've been quite critical of his numbers, but he has scored goals, but they tend to be spectacular goals, like the Palace one, for example. But him arriving at the back post is predatory, and it's something he needs to add to his game. So the fact he does it is a really positive sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was so much in that early spell. Jota looked good, Gakpo looked good, supporting the attack. It all looked like it was clicking and it was all making sense, and it doesn't quite work out that way. But if you're looking for things to build on, there's that. We've now got a big chunk to say, actually, we did this. We went up against a Chelsea team that was separately defensively at home and did cause them problems in that spell.
Yeah, we did, and like you mentioned, we probably should have finished the game inside 30 minutes, aside from, some decision making. Cody Gakpo, the one where he should just slot it bottom bins across the goalkeeper, and instead he does a pass, which to Salah would be okay if the pass isn't behind him. Yeah. If Salah can run onto the ball and put it into the corner, then sure. So it was just a couple of moments where we didn't have the right final pass, or we bombed it at someone, or it was behind the player, but we were in really good positions, and everyone was worried, or not worried, but everyone was talking about how Salah's now going to become some creator type player. Well, he could have had a hat-trick the other day if we would have gave him the ball in the correct areas. He nearly scored a wonder goal at the bar, so it's good to see that he is not being just stuck out wide, and also the creativity. We've spoken about how important the creativity is on that right-hand side previously with Trent and Salah and Henderson doing the dirty work. Well, the creativity in the first 30 minutes from that right-hand side was incredible, because you had Szoboszlai getting into it, you had Trent Alexander-Arnold who does the pass for the assist for Mo when he's offside, you had Mo Salah linking up, and then also McAllister was doing this run from deep, which I didn't like as a DM, but it was there in the first 30 where he was overlapping as well. So there was so much creativity going on there. We just need to be able to do that consistently whilst also being solid defensively.
I thought on the defensive end, I thought the two centre-backs played well. I thought Trent defended well.
No.
I got dragged out a few times for me.
Yeah, but that's because we haven't got a DM.
Exactly.
That is not him. This the point is that he has to go into areas they didn't want to go into. That's not his. I think when he went, I think he had to go. It was because there's no one there. This is what happens with this system, is that it's all well and good. I thought McAllister had a very good game, but you can tell at times he still wants to wander and get on the ball, because that's just natural to him. It's hard to just sit there and be the the Fabinho lighthouse. That's a really, it's a different skill set. It's a different thing altogether. Conor Gallagher found that difficult because he doesn't naturally do it either. And McAllister's twice the player he is, but the system itself didn't help them. But I actually thought, as individuals, I thought Van Dijk was somewhere near his best. There's something on the goal where something goes, he goes out and it's a bit messy, but I don't think you can really blame anyone for the goal other than probably maybe the clearance has got to go. But I thought Van Dijk was more, he won a lot of headers, front post looked strong. I thought Konate was good. I thought Trent, because he's played at right back, defended really, really well. Again,
Trent was good.
Yeah, I agree.
There's some quick criticism about Trent on the goal, but again, it's hard that, because you are where you are from when you're defending a set piece. It's hard to track runners because you're too busy trying to get out. So Robertson had a tough one, but I thought I was worried about the level of the players as well as the system last year. I thought, Konate not so much actually. I thought he was all right. He had a few stinkers. Just the consistency of Van Dijk and Alexander-Arnold this time last year, they looked poor, not poor, because poor too much, but they didn't look anywhere near it. I thought yesterday they both looked switch on defensively, which bodes well if you can get again these little fine tweaks in attack. And I think, so again, who knows when and how it's going to be, but if Liverpool can get themselves a proper defensive midfielder, with all due respect to Cody Gakpo, he can play as an 8 and he's good at it, but I'd much rather that be McAllister than Szoboszlai. If Gakpo's on the pitch, he can get up front if he wants to. I think that you can see it all clicking together, and you can see a lot of players in good form, and there's options available if they're not. So I think there's enough there to take from it. And again, I know some people might disagree, Paul, but I don't think you can ever really turn your nose at a point against Chelsea away. I know it's people. I saw Matt from the Stamford tweet, for example, these good points become bad points the more of them you get.
Well, they did, which is because last season, this is what happened. We ended up in a situation because we didn't beat Fulham, and then we end up going to Old Trafford, basically needing to beat United in order to not be a catastrophic start to the season. You don't go to Old Trafford with an expectation of getting 3 points. It just doesn't happen. And I kind of made this point yesterday as well, is that if you beat Chelsea at home and you take 4 points, that's what you should be doing. It's just that if people are going on this whole Chelsea only the 12th best team in the Premier League, then you're going to be disappointed with a draw away at Stamford Bridge. Was in reality, they're not, and they never were. They were mismanaged into that. They had much too many good players to be anywhere near where they ended up in the league last season. I mean, the fuck's sake, they ended up with Frank Lampard as the manager. You know what I mean? He's just not good enough to manage in the Premier League. He wasn't good enough to manage Everton. He's certainly not good enough to manage Chelsea. So they were in that situation for a variety of factors. And look, the same goes of us too. But yeah, it's the context is king. We don't have the context. Yeah, we've got the context that we're applying from last season, where we want Liverpool to be, our fears around how Liverpool are being set up for the season, personnel-wise, training-wise, etc. But the context will come in the next 2 or 3 games and beyond really. So I agree. I don't think it's the worst thing to go to Stamford Bridge and not win. It just, I think we all, for our own sense of like happiness, needed us to sign Caicedo and needed us to beat Chelsea, and we'd have all been feeling loads better about the whole thing.
The other thing, just on the defence, is I thought they had all right games. Yeah, I thought, in very unlike Virgil manner, he literally, when a ball had come near him, he'd boot it anyway. And that's not what the Virgil that we know when he was at the best. Virgil had took a touch, taken a player out the game and passed it off. And
I don't know, have you seen, do you remember that the Virgil van Dijk swinging a boot at something and going, ugh, because he spooned it, is a very familiar Virgil van Dijk sight, by the way. But carry on.
But he was more of just a hoof the ball, and I liked that, he didn't put us in a panic situation due to that. Obviously it meant that no one could bring a ball down and our attackers were just chasing nothing. I thought he did well with that. I thought, he was... Canate was the problem, where I thought he was probably better than Virgil for the first 30 minutes when we were really on top. He was winning the ball back constantly. He was winning 50-50s. And then when we didn't win enough tackles, that's the big problem for me. That midfield did not win enough tackles the other day. They were going in 2s and 3s and not winning a single tackle. I think we won 4 tackles. I think Lucas Paqueta, there was a stat, Lucas Paqueta got more tackles in a game the other day than 3 of our midfielders the other day, than all of our midfielders put together. That is not good enough. We obviously know that we need a DM, and that's what they're to do. But also on that, I mean, maybe that's why Canate was getting dragged out, but he was leaving acres of space. And the other problem for me was Virgil and Robertson were either too close together and no one was manning Reece James, or Cody Gakpo wasn't coming back, or Luis Diaz, or the other option was they were too far away and there was no communication, and that just meant Sterling dropped in between them. You had Nicholas Jackson run off the back of Virgil. Virgil didn't know whether to go or stay, and they were constantly in behind down that right hand side.
I think that's the system.
And that is the system. Yeah. That is the problem. We're not used to this system. Possession, it's really, really good. Out of possession, we need to learn what to do.
Someone having proper width with wing backs is going to be really hard for Liverpool's full backs to deal with, because Andy Robertson's meant to be narrow. If we he's meant to be narrow, that's not the point, because Trent's going to be in midfield. That's fine. But if he's narrow and there's a really good player, chalk on your boots all-star over there, then what you do? Because the second you go and stand on Reece James, the whole integrity of the system's gone, because that's where Sterling can pick it up and Jackson can be running off. And yet the flip side is, if you come narrow, which I think you probably should do, you're giving the ball out wide. And I think what Liverpool are going to have to get used to, and I think this is why I was quite encouraged, is there's probably going to be a lot of crosses coming into our box. If this is the system that we're going to play, the way to get round is to go round it like they did, and Chelsea identified it with Reece James. And what I would say is, for the most part, pretty much all of them, we dealt with all those crosses really, really well. There was a lot of headers, there was a lot of blocks, there was a lot of first balls. Jackson has a tough chance that he puts over the bar, but Alisson's right on top of him and he's got men round him. But there's no perfect system unless you've got Man City where you've got the ball all the time. That's how they don't get attacked.
Well, it's funny because I was seeing a lot about this, about when Trent advances and it leaves holes in behind. There's not a system that on the eye doesn't, leave concern. So it's funny when you read Klopp's book, Bring the Noise, and he was a big proponent of playing 4-4-2 in Germany. They never played 4-4-2 in Germany. It's just it wasn't done because there was a perception of how the defence moved across, and it was well, look, it leaves all this space over on this far hand side. You can just kick it across, and no one kind of clocked onto. By the time the ball's travelled over that way, you just move over and you cover it. But there's these misconceptions that happens around footy, and you're right. There is no. absolute perfect system. Everything's got a hole to it in some way, shape or form. Eventually you meet it and it's either teams parking the bus or whatever. I think we got caught a little bit out by their change of system. You know, again, they've played 4-2-3-1 from what I can tell all pre-season, and they've just gone back to three at the back, and I just don't think they were trained for what happens when Reece James just plays right midfield.
The midfield we had that's going to be difficult to play against the three at the back with wing backs, because you're asking Cody Gakpo.
Do you think if we knew they were going to do that, and of course it's footy, you do start Jones in midfield in that one instead, and just give yourself a little bit, because Gakpo, because he's a 9 and he's a winger, I think he does a good job at times in that 8, but he's less inclined. He's more inclined to go that way than go.
Well, it depends what your situation is, because the flip side is having Gakpo on there in the first place meant Liverpool had a really good start. So it's pick your poison, isn't it? I always think, and I've said this before, if in doubt, go for the positive option and go and try and if Mo Salah isn't half a yard offside, it's 2-0 and we're not bemoaning that. So again, there's pros and cons to it. Liverpool are in a position where, and this you can't sugarcoat it, we've started the season now and we haven't got the squad that we need to play how we want to play. Alexis McAllister, I thought, had a really good job as a DM, and he won a lot of tackles, and he won a lot of ball, and he got stuck in. He's involved in the goal. He probably should have an assist at the end, where he makes a bit of a mess of it. But he's not a defensive midfielder. And I do wonder if someone with a little bit more defensive acumen and a little bit more knowledge of the firefight and just goes, you know what, I'm going to go and help over there. I'll get closer to... It'll be me who can get close to Raheem Sterling. And because, again, Andy Robertson, I fell for him. He didn't have a good game. And Reece James really had him on toast at times. And Reece James is a good player. But that he was getting sold down the river. He's got Sterling and Reece James 2-on-1 every time. Yeah. And all he did was a 1-2 every single time. And he's like, what the fuck here? And then it wasn't until second half. I think Diaz started helping out a bit. And Szoboszlai did a bit as well. But you're taking away from your attacking players.
It goes back to, I think it was McAllister, we should be starting in the 8, and he then has that like little bit of defensive stuff, but he's playing it further up the pitch, and we're not as overcommitted. Whereas when you think about it, Szoboszlai, if you talk, he's a right winger. You know what I mean? That's being pulled back, you know, to play.
It's a very attacking lineup.
Well, we played with effectively five forwards in that, and behind that a number 10 playing in the 6, with a left back playing at centre half, and a fucking set, exactly, and a midfielder playing at right back as well by all accounts. And you know, again, there's wider issues at play with that. That's not acceptable. You know, we need to have more players to be able to give us better balance. But you're right, they've gone with the best foot forward. They've gone to try and blow it away, and it nearly works. But when it doesn't work, you end up in that situation where you've thrown your flurry of blows. If you've not knocked the guy out, you're a bit, you know, you've kind of blown yourself out. You've got to get, we had to get to half time big time, and we did, and we never really got back up to the level after we'd done that. But their goals ultimately changed the vibe of the game. It was exactly the same as 2 seasons ago when we went up early against them, and then they got the goal, and then the momentum shifts, and all of a sudden they're first to every tackle. We're a little bit late in our presses, and it's all on top. And so ultimately, it was fine. Just the substitutions before we take a break. Dan, I don't want to colour any opinions. Like, what was your thoughts on what Klopp did? Throw Salah into this? To the players that came onto the pitch, the players that went off?
Yeah, to start with the Salah point, I said during the game in here, because I've been a huge advocate of Ben Doak during pre-season. Anyone who's watched a minute of one of these shows will know that. I think he's been absolutely outstanding. I think he's got a hell of a future ahead of him. I think he's got a big role to play this season as well. Yesterday wasn't a game for Ben Doak in any way, shape or form. To me, it wasn't stretched enough. Chelsea was still too organised. There wasn't enough space for him to operate in behind. Didn't suit him in the slightest. And I was amazed that he made the double change that he did. I didn't think in any world he would take Diaz and Salah off. I just felt like Salah would stay on the pitch, to be honest with you. I think he clearly felt the same because he very much wasn't happy with the decision.
He wouldn't have taped his hand up so much if
he
had
thought
to
he was coming off. Yeah, it took ages. So, and I get his frustration, and in one hand I quite like his frustration because he clearly felt that he could have had an influence on the result. He felt like he should have stayed on the pitch because, ironically, Liverpool got a bit of an upper hand, and I actually think to bring another substitute in, I think Harvey Elliott was a huge part of that. I think he was brilliant, and I think he had a really good end to his pre-season. Actually, obviously comes back from England duty, 21s, and I think he was really lively in some of the cameo roles he had, and I think yesterday was no exception. I thought he was superb when he came on. He was everywhere, he was busy, he was making things happen, getting us back on the front foot. So it's not a huge shock to me that we kind of got back in the ascendancy when Elliott came on. I think he was very much a driving factor in that. And it's funny that had we have had Salah on the pitch and having his influence and sort of the unselfish Salah and what we've seen in his ability to pick a pass, who knows what could have happened towards the end, because Ben Doak, I think he had like 6 touches when he came on. He never got into the game at all, which is no criticism of him, like I say, it didn't suit him. But yeah, disappointing to see Salah like that. But again, it smacks of his desire and his hunger to win games of football for Liverpool, so it's a good thing in a way.
It was a nonsense taking him off. Absolute nonsense decision. Though Ben Doak could go on to be a Liverpool legend, he wasn't going to score yesterday.
No.
Just wasn't ever going to score a goal.
We didn't have the ball enough.
And Mohamed Salah can score you a goal. And what's worse, and again, it's hindsight 2020, is that they just took Reece James off.
Yeah.
He went down with, like, it turned out he was tired, which, again, there's your captain and all the best with that one. But they bring this lad on at left back, right back, Gusto, and Liverpool swore, and he had a couple of ropey moments, but who was there? And we had like Dom Szoboszlai now playing left wing, and it wasn't right. And I just think in hindsight, he could have let, if he'd have just, he seems to always take Diaz off. I don't know if he just doesn't think Diaz can go 90 minutes. Mo Salah can go 90 minutes. Mo Salah can go all day. So I think it was a poor decision. I think you're right. Getting Elliott on worked. I thought Elliott had a good game, but 1-1 at Chelsea, I don't think you take Mo Salah off.
No,
I don't think, unless he's injured or having a bad game, and he wasn't having a bad game. He kind of wasn't in. He just wasn't.
Well, I've seen it in numerous places. He's not getting the ball.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah, exactly.
what do you want Mo Salah to do if he's not?
And if Mo Salah can't get the ball, how's Ben Doak going to get the ball?
Yeah.
Because Salah's more likely to be able to read things and get in the right
And
position.
there is just something though, just to play devil's advocate on it. It's just pace. You know what I mean? It's just if you're just going to get into situations where you're going to pump into the channel. Are Chelsea going to throw the kitchen sink at it to go and get the win?
Mo Salah's slow, though, mate.
No, but he's also. I think we saw it in that game. He didn't win any major foot races because they've got fast lads too. And there's just something there to what we've said all pre-season. You know, we said bring Doak home with 10-15 minutes to go. So in theory, it was fine logic, and there's something too. I think if you're going to tell them we've got 6 options and 3 players, you know, it's a meritocracy. Everyone plays, everyone fights for it. I think Salah was sat there going, yeah, honestly, yeah, this rotational thing, you guys, yeah, I totally get it, You guys are a rotation, yeah, but I don't think he was prepared. And I'll be honest, I've changed my opinion on it. I'm not sure I'm totally keen on how he goes off the pitch. I like that he's passionate, but he's meant to be one of the leaders on the pitch, and I don't think it does Ben Doak any favours to throw a fucking strop when you're coming off. I remember, and again, I think of one isolated instance. He may have done this the other way many a time. When Xabi Alonso used to get subbed off, he'd run off. Because there's something to, my job's done here now. Unless you're trying to run the clock down and you're giving it a big, like, oh, clap all 4 corners and undo your tape and undo your socks and all that kind of stuff. If you want to win the game, the manager's made the decision, mate, get off the pitch and go and make sure the lad gets a fucking proper, go on, you're a leader, go and grab Ben Doak and go and say, go and do it, mate.
To be fair, though, Salah did give us high fives.
No, I mean, he did, just about, mate, you know what I mean?
He was pissed off and he should be pissed off. And again, I think if you want to find whatever, there's a world where you can leave one and Salah and Diaz on. Yeah. They're the most likely to score a goal, one of those two. There was even a suggestion if you could put Salah up front and you can put Darwin left. Yeah. Putting Szoboszlai left wing, I don't get it, and I just think Liverpool missed a trick there. Because especially with James going off, this lad, I don't Gusto, I don't know him, but I wasn't impressed by the 15 minutes I saw. He didn't look comfortable at all, and we had no real way of exploiting it. And you're right, what it didn't do Ben Doak any favours at all. He'll be fine. Yeah. And listen, there's games where he should come on against Bournemouth, but if Ben Doak's coming on for Mo Salah, Liverpool should be 4-0 up, and Mo Salah's having a rest. You don't take your best player off at 1-1. I'm just not having it.
The only other thing again is there was a moment. The moment that did my head in was actually, and it was a Salah moment. Because I think Trent got the blame. I think you said it was Trent's fault at the time. There's a little moment where we're playing a little give and go in the top right hand corner, and Salah plays this such a lazy pass to Trent. It's just so no intent on it, nothing. And I just, again, it seems stupid to try and have a learning, use this as a teaching moment in a game against a big top 4 rival or whatever. But our biggest issue last season was malaise. It was players not giving absolutely 100% and 10%. It was players not emptying the tank. And if that says, and if Klopp feels for the second, and I'm just speculating as to what he might think on that, if he suspects Salah of holding on to something, like he's not given. Because Salah's supreme, he's the fittest guy on the pitch. He plays every minute of every game forever. If there's even a hint of suspicion that he's going, well, I'm just going to make sure I've got a little bit left for the end of the game, then I don't think there's anything wrong with it. We've got six players for those positions. We've got 5 subs to be used. I think it's an interesting case study to tell everyone. Nobody's safe here. You go and you run. Because Cody Gakpo ran every ounce of energy out of his body in that game, and I think Diogo Jota did the same. I think Diaz probably did. I don't think Salah did. I don't think Salah was knackered. So why are you taking Salah off? That's my only thought.
Nonsense to say.
Yeah. But again, there's got to be a wider reason to play for it. Is it part of us just strip feeding them into the season? You know, no one's arsed when Pep takes Erling Haaland off. I know it's normally because he scored 5 goals.
I was saying
but they do. But they take their top players off. Kevin De Bruyne doesn't play 90 normally because he's gone off injured most games. But you know, we do have to manage the squad better. We can't have it both ways. We can't complain when all of our best players get injured, and then whinge when we try to protect them, I guess. But I look, by the way, I've spoken a lot on this. I totally think it was fucking stupid to take your best goal scorer off the pitch in a game that was there to be won. So there must be something more to it. Neil O'Callaghan with the super chat here says, this has been the most depressing weekend being an LFC fan. That's a slight exaggeration.
That is bollocks, Neil. That is balls. You have not lived...
Been around long, yeah.
Oh, how long have you been a fan for, mate? Jesus Christ.
He says, it's like the club, and just to... That's part of that. It's like the club doesn't know how to operate, and the team and Klopp are going to pay the price. So amateurish by a top club. So I've just done a video. It's on my channel. It's not out yet, but I'm talking about the mess that the Caicedo stuff's let us in. We'll start with that in part 2 because I think it's a good place to kind of pick up on that. So thanks for the super chat. We'll pick up on that. Very short break from us, and then let's talk the Moises Caicedo mess and beyond after this. Hey, our brand new book has landed. It is Bobby Firmino, Best in the World, an A4 format, prestige, limited edition book featuring incredible insight into the life and times of a Kop icon, taking it back to his boyhood days in Brazil, his transfer to Hoffenheim, and a season-by-season guide to his time on Merseyside. Follow the story of Bobby Firmino, get great stats, insights, quotes. You're going to see fantastic photos from his times at the Reds and unique artwork from a whole host of incredible Liverpool artists as well. It is a very limited edition, limited run, one and done. Grab one while you can. We've even got a special author-signed edition available as well, and even more limited quantities. Head to redmenmerch.com. You are sure to be thrilled and marvel at this wonderful creation of ours. Yes, head to redmenmerch.com. Grab one today. Yes, head to redmenmerch.com and pick up your copy of Bobby Firmino, Best in the World. Selling fast, so grab one while you can. The author-signed editions. I'm genuinely astounded how popular those have been. I'm really pleased that people want our signatures on stuff.
Bank fraud or something, someone's copying it. we was doing them signings and Paul went to me, that isn't your real signature, is it? I was like, yeah, mate, I'm just giving everyone.
Just to be careful, you've not done a book signing before. I just had to make sure you weren't giving away the back of your credit card.
I can assure you it wasn't. That's fine.
You've got your hero signature, your rock star signature.
I mean, there's no money in the bank account if you want to.
Yeah, that's it. Fill your boots.
Like Liverpool, funny enough.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, it's quite the opposite, as we discovered. Nice
110 million quid sitting in there.
Yeah. Well, just to follow on from Neil's comments. Pre the break, I generally feel like Liverpool are a mess. I just don't feel like there's the club's being particularly well run, and I felt loads more down, and it was exacerbated by how happy I felt when the story broke that we had a bid accepted for Caicedo. It all looked like it was done and dusted, because that's what happens. Bid accepted. Now it's just, by all accounts, like the medical was being sorted, and it was like the process. And we were here. Well, no, sorry, I was here. Were you here?
Yeah.
You were here. You two weren't, you fucking lucky bastards. But like, it's the process. We know what happens. You press go, and then it's like, right, cool. So that's going to happen. So you do your reaction, then we do some more stuff on Plus. Then we start to try and find as many journalists and coaches and all that kind of thing to speak to as possible. It's go time, because this is going to follow. And then it's like, what? And then he's going to do the medical and he's going to sign. And we had the weekend was all mapped out because we've done this before. We know what it looks like. And then obviously then it just completely spins on its head, and then we're all left in limbo, and all these like fucking mad chances on Twitter start throwing their all in with their little tidbits of second, third hand information. It was depressing is a bit of an exaggeration, but it definitely felt like a big kick in the teeth. Chloe, it went. I know you felt it acutely over the last few days. It was a real. It felt like we were on a real high, and it did feel like it absolutely took the legs off the mood over the weekend.
My sleep schedule's been ruined for absolutely no reason at all, basically. I'm gutted, to be perfectly honest. It was the fact that no one ever thought this would be a possibility. Like, not a single Liverpool fan. We all might have wanted it, but no one thought we stood a chance. And to have it go from no chance at all, not even a snippet of this being a plausible idea, and then a bombshell to be dropped that actually it's already done, they've accepted it, they've agreed it, it's about a medical tomorrow. You had a 1:30 in the morning, people going absolutely mental. I was sat there laughing in shock at what the hell have Liverpool just done. It was confident to see, we were not spending 50 mil on Lavia 2 minutes ago, and we all thought, Jesus Christ, we've got no money, what are we trying to do? Have 111 million straight out. It was to have that ripped from you when you seem like you've got it all done. It's really gutting, especially when you know how much we need a DM, how good he is. And you can say that 111 million is ridiculous money. It was a record British fee, wasn't it? But at the end of the day, it shows how much we're in trouble. But not just that, it shows that you're not just paying for him now. He's 21, you're paying for the next however many years of him.
9 at Chelsea.
9 at Chelsea. So yeah, it was just, I'm not gonna lie, it was depressing. It felt like you've went from the biggest high ever, and I think it was mostly because no one thought we'd ever see that happen, and no one thought it was a plausible idea, and for it to actually, for 5 hours become a reality, it was brilliant to have it snatched from underneath you. And obviously it hurt a bit more knowing the fact that they've spent 800 mil in three windows, and we're over here not paying 50 mil for Lavia, trying to get him for 47 instead. It's a kick in the teeth. And then to go on from that, it was throughout the day, before we even did the match build-up, I was already hit, because by 10 a.m, someone had told me Chelsea were coming in for them again. And even though there was this deadline from Brighton, well, deadline means absolute fuck all to use over there. And then, now we want Caicedo, but guess what? That other lad who you've been going on with for 4 weeks trying to bid for him, yet we also now want him to have 55 mil on the table. They want a goalkeeper as well, because they're getting rid of Kepa. They've just signed Denzel Washington, apparently. I mean, how he's that actor's managed to come all the way over here, I'm not sure. They're looking for so many other positions, and I just feel like, where do we even go from here? Who's next? I can't move on because I don't know who else we're looking at.
The issue is Liverpool got played.
Yeah.
And that's what's embarrassing. Liverpool did nothing wrong here. Liverpool went to a club. No, sorry, tell a lie. Liverpool went to an agent or a player and said, would you sign for us if we can get a bid? They were told yes. They made that bid. They got that bid accepted. That's what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
Liverpool played it exactly right. They go to the people and go...
And moreover, in going for the big bucks, that was the encouraging side for me. It was like, Liverpool have got the money, they're still prepared to go and spend what it needs to be spent on the right players. They've gone and got who's about to go and get who's the best available in the market at this point. No cost isn't an issue. And you're right, and then and
that's what's happened. Like, the Lavia thing's a separate situation, Cole. It turns out Liverpool have got the dough. They just don't think he's worth it, and that's fine. I'm alright with that. Like, as long as, but you've got to then have someone who you think you can spend the money on. That's the point. If he doesn't come to Liverpool now, or he does whatever, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But Liverpool did the Caicedo thing exactly what you meant to do. They didn't, and I heard, like, why didn't they bid for him a few weeks ago? Well, they thought he was going to Chelsea, and then that was dragging on. Excuse me. And Liverpool go, there's an opportunity here. They're doing the exact thing. Let's go and speak to his people. Do you reckon he'd fancy it? Yeah, okay, let's go to Brighton. What do you want? Yeah, okay, we can do it. That should be it. Mm-hmm. The issue is that they've obviously been sold a lie somewhere. Yeah. It might just be that it was like, yeah, we'll sign for you but they didn't really think it was gone. But there's no way he's going to bid for him. Hopefully now they have.
Well, the idea of the deadline thing gave surety on that because you don't want to get caught into a bidding war with Chelsea clearly, because they'll find a way to beat you at any cost. And I think Chelsea are going to be in all kinds of trouble in years to follow. But that's another conversation for another day. But that's the thing about it, Dan, is that it's Brighton has set a deadline. They'll be fuming. And the worst thing is, of course, is the timing of all this and all the other general feelings of negativity. It's being lumped in with as Liverpool ineptitude. I'm with Steve. This isn't the Liverpool. Aren't the ones who fucked this. They've been fucked. But of course, the net result doesn't make any difference. We still feel just as shit about how the football club's being run.
Yeah, and what's happened since with the Lavia stuff makes it look even worse, doesn't it? Because we're left without our plan A or B and sort of scrambling around about who to turn to next. So yeah, it is a difficult one. I think Liverpool did exactly the right thing when it comes to Caicedo. I think keeping the bid on the table after it was accepted was the right thing to do, because otherwise you walk away, you allow Chelsea probably to sign it for slightly less, potentially lines up against you on a Sunday as well, so you make that happen quicker. So Liverpool acted accordingly. They acted absolutely correctly, and they acted in a way that sort of should fill us with encouragement that, like you both allude to there, we are willing to spend big money on the player that we see fit. And I agree with Steve. I don't think the Lavia situation's ever been a case of checking our back pockets and down the couch for the cash to get him. I think we don't think he's worth 50 million.
Yeah.
I think we think that's over the odds, and listen, we may well have our hand forced in paying over the odds because we might not be left with much choice when it comes round to it, and that could be the case. But I think the whole time we just thought he isn't a £50 million footballer, therefore we don't want to pay that, and that's always been our stance. We don't want to go to any negotiation and get our pants pulled down, so I don't really blame us for that. And it does fill me with encouragement that we were willing to go to 111 million for Caicedo, because we've done that a lot recently, and I think we're quick to forget. Like, we fast-forwarded the Luis Diaz transfer, and we thought there was a sniff of, was it Tottenham getting him, didn't we? We thought, no, we want him, let's go and pay now, let's get it done in January. Same with Cody Gakpo, we did that recently as well. So when we see an opportunity and the player is the right fit and he ticks the boxes, and I've said for a while about Caicedo, that I dragged up that old clip of me saying you go and hijack that deal because he is the answer, and clearly Liverpool felt the same. He's the answer, and when the answer's there staring you right in the face and there's a chance you can sign him, you pay the money for it, and that's what we're willing to do. We're willing to pay through the nose, break our own record by some distance, break the British record, and that's a good thing. Now what it means, the result of it, the end cost of that is that you haven't got the player and you might not have your plan B either. So what Liverpool do next is essentially anyone's guess. What I do think though, sort of to bring it back round to all of this, is I don't think Liverpool now, nothing's off the table now for Liverpool and what we do for the rest of the window, because the options that have kind of come and gone and they've been sort of crossed off the list for various reasons, age, injury prone, valuation in terms of like the club want too much money for him. Now we don't have any choice, because previously Caicedo was there and Lavia was there, we knew that all along, but now they're off the table, potentially. I think Lavia might be. Now those sort of excuses, if you like, are gone. We just have to go and sign someone, and our reasoning for not doing can't exist anymore.
I suppose as well is that the flip side is, mate, everyone now knows you got 111 million quid. Everyone, nobody do, like, for example.
I agree. I mean, look, we could argue that it was that 111 million pounds being put in a suitcase and handed over to Brighton. It wasn't, but I agree. Broadly speaking, what you're saying is Liverpool. People know Liverpool aren't paupers,
but they knew that anyway. Just to say, like, crying poverty as a top six club doesn't wash with other football clubs. Like, it's not. You are right. Liverpool aren't notoriously lavish spenders, because that's not the way we run the football club. But you go to Brighton, Crystal Palace, whoever it may be, for one of their players, they know when Liverpool come knocking, there's money to be found somewhere. So they've always known that.
I think the play is you go to Real Madrid and you just make a decision on Tchouaméni. It's all well and good just saying, is he available or can we have him? It's another thing going, 90 million quid there, lads. You can, like,
I just don't think he's 90 mil anymore. I genuinely don't.
But he is, again,
it doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter.
You've at least taken Chelsea out the market as well.
Just Caicedo isn't the third best player in the world of all time.
No.
But that's what the fee they're paying for him is. You know what I mean? It's beggars can't be choosers. Chelsea and us, and I say beggars knowing the fact that they're very rich beggars. But you know what I mean? Like,
we're in a situation now where we are beggars for the DM.
Exactly. Yeah. We are desperate to get. We haven't got. I think we've got Stefan Bacchetta, just the only defensive midfielder really in the club, and he's a lad who's played 10 games and his hip fell off. So like, we need to do something. It's what you go and do now is next. Like, I have no issue with Liverpool getting made a show by the Caicedo. I mean, I do in terms of, like, it's not great, but in terms of how Liverpool acted, I think Liverpool acted fine. But the fact is now,
to be fair, based on that, we were out at the boss night thing on the Thursday night, and we ended that day with the rumours that Liverpool were going to outbid. Mel Reddy was the one who said we were prepared to, but we hadn't lodged the bid. And I did a video going, "There's no way Liverpool are doing this." I was like, Chelsea don't want Lavia, and Liverpool don't want them because they'd just come in straight away with the bids. So when the rumours started to break and you were getting getting word, it's like, it looks like they're going to do something. I was shocked that they pushed they pulled the trigger on that one. But that was, again, that means my understanding of how they act is not correct. I'm not up to date. I mean, I've got a lot of us have got a strong suspicion of it, but that should be seen as a positive, that they are prepared to go and do things. But you're right, it's not their fault, but they need to. We're now left in a situation, all the best intentions are great, best intentions can't play defensive midfield for us. Like, ambition to sign players can't play centre mid for you. You can do going and buying players who can play in defensive midfielder. So it's great that they've tried this, and it's really annoying, and it's shit that it's failed. And the worst thing is they could pay the price in the worst way, that they've taken their eyes off Lavia. And if Chelsea have actually unsettled that move for us as well, then let's call it what it is. Chelsea have played a fucking blinder here. It's stupid, all the contracts they're giving out and all that kind of stuff. And again, I contend in 2 or 3 years time, when they're on they're 2 managers in and they don't want half the players and they can't shift any of them because they're all on 8-year contracts, they're going to be up shit creek. But I mean, they'll just shift them off to their mates in Saudi, of course, like, but that's all sound. Liverpool now need to, they can't fuck around anymore. We now know the shape of the transfer budget. Was that all the budget? I don't know. Maybe.
So even if it is, mate,
take decisive
action.
You've
got to go and spend. You've got to go and get it. We can't. I what's the word? I acknowledge the other flaws in the squad. Liverpool need a centre half. It might be that they need a left centre back as well. But if you're listing their priorities, they have to go and get a defensive midfielder. And I'm all right with Pacheco's back, whoever that's.
We literally watched Chelsea in exactly the same boat. Don't own a defensive midfielder, and they've gone, and they might resolve that by spending £175 million on 2. That's the kind of, I don't need Liverpool to spend 170 million, but we do need to have two guys in the club who can play defensive midfielder. You need your main one, and if there's something wrong with him, you need someone else who can do it without compromising other areas of the pitch. Not just did we compromised the 6th position by not having a 6, we compromised our 8th by not playing McAllister.
I think I'm happy with Pacheco as the second option behind someone boss, and McAllister and Thiago doing bits in home games against, like, with all due respect, Luton at home, we'll play Thiago in it, whatever. But I think if you've fucked yourself by waiting a year to get your midfield rebuild underway, and if Liverpool are stupid enough to leave themselves with an 18-year-old kid as the main for 6, who hasn't had a pre-season, then it's just there. It's the iceberg, but it's like being the captain of the Titanic, but being told the Titanic it's an iceberg. We've seen it happen before. You've watched the film before you've even got on the boat. Like, you mean, like, this is coming, so we know, because we've seen this happen when Liverpool can't be that season. You can't put all our hopes and players onto one main defensive midfielder. I suppose, mate, the fact that we've just seen them being prepared to spend a record transfer, they know. I mean, they're not idiots. So I would still contend. I'd be shocked if they don't buy someone. I don't know who it's going to be.
That is the problem.
That's again, the Schumann stuff makes perfect sense to me. It really does. It's now. Does Real Madrid want to sell him? Does he want to leave?
He's starting in the base of the midfield at this moment in time.
Yeah, he is, but and that's the thing. He might not want to go, and that's another problem. There's loads.
Find out.
Yeah, you're going to have to go and ask some questions over someone, because we knew that they were prepared to. They were interested in Jude Bellingham, and whatever reason that got too high, they were willing to, and they literally put a bid in for Moises Keita, the one that got accepted. So if they can't see they've got no money now, go and find one. There's got to be a DM somewhere, and I don't give a fuck if he's for sale or he's not. You go and make him for sale. There's enough money there where you say, listen, how much is he worth? He's worth 50. All right, sound. Listen,
the whole window just doesn't make sense, does it? You know what I mean? And again, it comes down to how highly Liverpool value these players. But it's mental that if we're going to buy Lavia, it's going to be 10 million more than we could have got him for a week before, because we fucked around with that one. And we fucked around, and I said it's fine if you fucked around because you're waiting for something bigger to develop, and then you then go and get that thing, which was the intention with Caicedo, all the best intentions. I was fine with us. Now, on Friday, I was like, what a great idea to slow play Lavia, because it's meant we can now afford to buy Caicedo instead, who's a better player. But now you've not got it. So your next move needs to be something decisive. But the problem is that what's the pecking order look like?
No.
How far down our list are we getting? Because, you know, we're starting to see, the Tchouaméni, great. I think Tchouaméni is right at the top of that list. Yeah. But if you can't get him, then he might as well not be on the list. Who gives a shit? Who is on there, and how good
Florentino Luis, Pauline.
Well, it's talking about having a 103 million release clause for Florentino Luis.
Not paying that, are they?
No, but you don't know, do you? I mean, the problem with release clause, and this is where it gets complex, is that Liverpool were not spending £111 million in one hit on that. Release clauses are that. That's why no one really pays huge release clauses. You know, every Spanish player, it's like a contractual thing in Spain. I've referenced it before, but like Danielson had one when he first joined Real Betis, when he was the most expensive player on the planet, and you know, had to shut 2 Spanish banks to pay his minimum release clause because it was just a contractual obligation. We're getting to a world now where people now do, because of Neymar and all that kind of stuff, people do just go and pay those ludicrous sums. I don't know that Liverpool will have 105 in their arse pocket to hand to Luis, and also, that's the problem.
Yeah, again, Decore, Pauline, they're all, you know what the fit is, mate, they all get a game for us, so that's where we are, but none of them are like, I don't think you're doing somersaults at this moment in time, where that was the best thing about Caicedo. I was with you, I was feeling a little bit unwell on Thursday, and I was awake. And then half one or something, David Ornstein, I was like, wow, this is like, this is outrageous. And then obviously you mentioned I wasn't here on Friday. I was at a wedding trying to keep abreast of the situation. And it was just, all I was getting, I just saw the Redmen WhatsApp group going mad, like, yeah, we've got him, in, no, oh shit, no, he's going to Chelsea, Romano says this, and it just became a big mess. And Liverpool now, and I saw Jamie Carragher saying like, a little bit of criticism. I was like, I don't think we should criticise them for that. I think you should criticise them for starting the season without the
being in the situation where
we have to do that. That they're two separate arguments, and I think they're both legitimate in terms of.
Go on, Colin.
Sorry, very very quickly. The only point now is that we got told they slow played the Fabinho sale because they wanted the replacement lined up. We've just played the game in the Premier League against Chelsea with no DM because we didn't have that replacement sorted. You'd have been better keeping Fabinho and saying to him, you can go to Saudi when your replacement's here, mate. And either play, do they, wouldn't he? And unfortunately now we can't. Go on, Dan.
David Ornstein.
Oh
God.
Liverpool are among a number of leading clubs who have a long-term admiration for Tchouaméni. But see the 23-year-old France international as a key player and would not consider his departure. And the midfield has no interest in leaving.
Jesus Christ.
So there's
that done. So there's that.
Move on.
The thing for me is, I don't think it's embarrassing what Liverpool have done, because Liverpool have surely gotten.
It is a bit embarrassing of like you make your move on the dance floor for the best looking person in there. Yeah. Nothing wrong with taking your shot. But if you've then told everyone to watch you while you do it,
that's the problem. It's not embarrassing at the fact that we've gone and done it, and we've put our money where our mouth is in terms of that. The problem is, it's embarrassing that this players first of all chose Chelsea over Liverpool.
I
do slightly. I understand it. I understand it's money, but in terms of if I was a footballer and it's my career, I want trophies. I think Liverpool is the best destination for that out of them two at this moment in time. That might change in the long run with how much money they have.
You know what the problem is with this is that Chelsea have spent the last 6 months convincing him that that's the club, and he's showing Liverpool because Chelsea couldn't look like Chelsea weren't going to stump up the cash, and then you go, well, actually, go on, I'll go Liverpool, I'll be absolutely fine. I'd be interested in the past. But when the club who spent all that time wooing you come along, then you're going to turn, and that's the issue we've got. And we reaped the benefits of this loads of times in the past, making players sweet on us, but that takes time.
Taking Virgil van Dijk to Blackpool and stuff like that.
But that's what I mean. But that's the problem with this, is that we've left ourselves in a position where it's that the old 50s tradition where girls would have their dance card and you'd had to write your name on. You can only get so many dance slots in a night. We have not been courting any defensive midfielders in preparation for this situation, or certainly not enough of the level that we're looking for. And so they're all taking musical chairs. They've all picked the chair already, and that's the problem we're facing now.
And now I think the most embarrassing part of it all is this Lavia. You've got to now crawl back to Lavia and go, hey mate, no, actually we really did want you. We just wanted both of you. Turns out we can't do that. So now you're going to be, number one instead of number two. You're not going to be on the bench.
I don't think that's a problem.
I think it is. I think it's a little bit embarrassing.
It might be too late, by the way.
That's the issue.
But I think it's embarrassing the fact that you've had to now go back to him. Apparently he's had his head turned and he wants to go to Chelsea. If both of them go to Chelsea, it's embarrassing. It is for Liverpool, because you've been stumped out of number 1 and 2. You've been spending weeks. You talk about wooing people. We've spent the past 3-4 weeks trying to get Southampton.
Our transfer approach is like a single man press. And when you tear after someone, trying to, I'm going to lead this and blah, 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 and they just 2 men just knock it around you and attack. And that's what we've done. It was all under our control. We were playing this nice, calm, sensible game. Probably a bit too slow and a bit too stupid by the looks of it. And then we've just gone full steam in on Caicedo, and Chelsea have just basically 1-2'd it round us, and actually maybe look like they've come away with our two now top targets for themselves. And this is the problem with this all, is we're competing against Chelsea this season. They're going to be in the hunt for those top 4 places, and they've gone and bought our now seemingly top 1 and 2 targets for the position. What's left on the table? What's left on the market for us?
I don't think it's that bad to go back for him, because ultimately you're saying to the lad, listen, it was,
though, when we wouldn't pay 50, there had to be a reason why we would not pay 50 to then go and pay 60.
It's stupid to have to pay 60, because Chelsea have absolutely pulled our pants down there.
Which is
just have to quietly raise the value on our top, while everyone's looking at this headline Caicedo fee, to quietly go. Liverpool should have just gone in with bids for both. Yep. If they know the outcome, go and get a bid accepted on Lavia and get that to a point. But that speaks to me again. Liverpool couldn't afford both. Otherwise, they could have just gone and got this done. And Chelsea clearly can for now, for whatever reason. And yeah, they'll pay over the odds. But they've either we end up paying more than we want to, or they've stolen the players out of our nose.
The final thing for me is that putting 111 mil on the table is an embarrassing. The problem is what happens next, and also it's the feeling for me is that no one's ever gonna compete with Caicedo. No one we go with now, as soon as we sign them, they might be unreal, but no one's going to feel as big as what Caicedo joining Liverpool would have felt like.
You're right.
And I know I have to now change my expectations, but to go from thinking, oh my God, imagine a midfield of McAllister, Szoboszlai and Caicedo, and then we go for someone more disappointing.
The only thing is about turning bad situations into good, and I think if I'd watched us sign Caicedo and then seen Andy Robertson's performance, I'd still be thinking, shit, we desperately need another centre-half. And if we've just spunked all our budgets on Caicedo, we're committing to going into the season potentially without addressing that problem. And again, this is me really reaching here, but if that's the budget, I would rather see us spend the budget on. I don't want to see us spend the budget on one player. I think we need that centre half, and I think we desperately need. We obviously still need a defensive midfielder as well. It's on them now to go and put that right. One last point on the comments, which we haven't mentioned, from Bella here, saying, why are you talking about 60 million after we inflated Caicedo to 115? There is that. Again, Caicedo, Chelsea weren't prepared to go higher than 80 for Caicedo, and they've just been forced to go to 100. Yeah, were they though? Again, they've been in no hurry to push that button. They've just had to go into the market and go above and beyond. Not that they give a shit, of course, but yeah, good point. Well, wait, sorry.
I'm just saying it. Don't worry about second choices. Mo Salah was a second choice.
Yeah.
Sadio Mane was a second choice. You can get, as long as you get the right player, it doesn't matter. It might not on paper be the Moises Caicedo, but if Liverpool's scouting of players is as good as we sometimes think it is, and I meant saying this, when Liverpool sign players, they sound really good players. They just don't do it often. There's very few times they get it absolutely dog shit wrong. Yeah. They might have done that last summer with one of them, but we'll find out down the line. If they can go and find someone, I wouldn't worry that it's second, third, fourth, fifth choice, as long as they can play. Yep. And they might not be as good as Moises Caicedo. There's a good chance they're not, because Liverpool obviously felt like he was the main man. But if it's Decore or if it's Luiz or whoever it is, and they come in and they play to the level that they can play at, and that Liverpool think they can, we'll be better for it. Yeah. That's ultimately, if Julian Brandt would have said yes to Liverpool or Marco Reus, we might not have had Salah and Mane, and that's the best front three we've ever had. So you can turn turn bad into good. But the issue is now is that we always had plan A, B, C lined up. How far down does Liverpool's list go, and how good are these players on there? Because that's the problem.
There's a comment here from Tarek Marmar says, why on earth did we move for Ugarte? Because he moved before we needed him. ultimately.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we were in the market for Fabinho plus Fabinho and Henderson plus a young DM understudy. Ugarte was off the table before we'd even come to the table, and that's the bit of the problem there, is that Liverpool are having to react to the situation.
They might have just thought he was crap. Like they didn't know they know about the release fee. Like Liverpool know the release clause of every single player in Europe. You know, they're not. It's, you know, every agent. You know, every asking price for every single player, because you've got so many people connected. You'd be amazed at like how far Liverpool's tentacles reach across Europe, and they know every player's value, contract, release clause. They know it all. That's how they end up getting these. That's how they do well with the Soberslys and the McAllisters. They know what they're doing. Like they might have just thought he was crap, and it might have been the same with Carlos. What's his other guy's name? Is it? Who's the lad who was at? Was it in? Never mind, I forgot.
Give us a clue.
Yeah, give us something.
Yeah, help us out.
Betis.
Royal Betis.
Gabby Vega.
Gabby Vega.
Ends up at Napoli.
Now. They might just. He
Was it Celta Vigo?
Yeah,
He was Celta Vigo. He was going to Napoli.
It was Celta Vigo, not Betis.
I got it from Betis. He's done well though.
Yeah. I don't know. He got from the complete
Spanish was the
Spanish lad. Yeah. They knew him, and he could have had it. They might just. That's the thing, is that just because we think players right and good, Jurgen Klopp will be given a listing. Right, mate. Here's a load of players. Do you like any of these any good? And they'll know everything about them all.
Yep.
So my hope is, I think, for example, the Corey from Palace will be a good player for Liverpool. I think it's a good signing. But Crystal Palace sat there going, well, you've got 111 million, haven't you, lads? It's like, you know, like, it's like, for example, someone comes to buy your car, and if he turns up and he's got like a monocle and a fucking top hat on. Alright, yes, hard, I can get
Yeah, he's turning up in rip tracky bottoms and he's kicking the tyres, you know. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The fucking Monopoly man turns up to buy your car, you're throwing a few zeros on, aren't you? And that's what they could be now.
I'm a little bit worried, I won't lie, if we don't get a DM before Newcastle.
And Villa after that.
Every game without one, you know, professionals playing in professional positions. I've seen one here from someone saying, from Chris saying, Enzo's worth every penny for Chelsea. I think Caicedo will turn out to be saying, this is my problem with transfer fees. It is not possible for them to be worth the money that they've spent for them, because there's only so much money you can earn from being successful. You can earn like 95 million by winning the Champions League, but like you get 45 million for getting out the groups effectively. The amount of money that Chelsea spend, this is why the whole thing's stupid, and like they're playing a mad, weird, strange game with the future of that football club. But anyway, it's not our fucking. I'm at this point where I like Liverpool being a sustainable business model gets tested every single day that the transfer window's open. Right, we're going to call a halt to all this anyway. We're going to be doing the Biased Transfer Podcast, the Biased Football Podcast, in an amalgamated fashion. After this, over on redmenplus.com, we're going to be talking about Neymar to Saudi. We're going to talk a little bit about Chelsea and what they're doing. We're going to be looking back on the weekend's games as well, and we're going to be naming our bell end of the week. Some strong contenders. I think we can probably guess who that might be. From me, certainly. Guys, thank you so much. I think, but I feel all right.
It's fine.
We'll sign one.
With that dog on fire and the meme out.
This is fine.
Yoke Schmadke might be that dog in the meme, to be honest.
Oh, God. Right, Sal, thank you so much for joining us. Drop a like if you're on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review if you're on podcasting apps. And if you want more, fill your boots over on redmenplus.com. Ta-da. Thank you so much for watching. The new season is here. Come and join us over on redmenplus.com for fantastic shows, pre and post-match content, journalistic insights into all Liverpool's transfer business, documentaries, interviews, features and more. Head to redmenplus.com, sign up today and fill your boots with Boss Liverpool content.